Have your way, God. Have your way. Aloha Sunday, my favorite time of the month. But this particular morning, how about if I sit down, we holler hana ho, they come back, do it about 3 more times, we take an offering and go home. Yeah? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But I stayed up so late, folks. It is Aloha Sunday, and we are back to our lovely tradition of honoring a Hawaiian wisdom saying from the collection Olela no E'au, compiled by Mary Kavenapukui. And this morning's proverb is, now hang with me a little bit here, He a'alei ku makani mai au, a'oe makani nana e kula'i. Right? Good. Then, well, see, that's easy. Let's see what Mary Kavenapukui really says about this in our language. I am a wind-resting a'ali'i. No gale can push me over. No gale can blow me down. Yeah? Yeah. And it's also the Lunar New Year, the year of the horse. A couple of powerful ideas for an Aloha Sunday morning. Here is where at the beginning of the Lunar New Year in the Chinese community, there is a big celebration, big energy going on, clearing out the old to welcome in the new, the prosperous, the lively, the strong, so no gale blows us down. And the symbolism of the horse, whether or not you subscribe to astrology or this Chinese version, there are metaphors within the interpretation of the symbolism. Whether or not you're born in the year of the horse, you can still lay hold of and claim in your life the powerful symbols of this tradition. And the horse is an animal of strength and agility, a courageous animal and a wise creature. And we can all take those messages into our own being as an affirmation and a claim for how we choose to move forward in this new year. There's a Chinese proverb that says, a good horse never turns its head to eat the grass behind. Smart horse. For a variety of reasons. But the horse knows, you're with me, I can tell. The horse knows that the green grass lies on the path ahead. And that's where we're headed. Yes, we're headed on the path ahead. Can I get an amen? Amen. All right, thank you. Indeed, we will follow this wisdom, and we will take a moment to celebrate the tradition with the traditional greeting. Gong hee fat choi, yes? Gong hee fat choi. Gong hee fat choi. Yay, thank you. Enjoy the celebration that's going on in our community, around the island, and steep yourself in the joy of the arrival of the new year. We're also going to look at this proverb and the year of the horse symbolism through our unity understanding. Our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, understood that each of us held the perfect pattern of God's grand design for humanness already within us. Do you know we don't have to go searching around for who and what we are? It is resident in our being. And in Mr. Fillmore's understanding, this was the template called the Christ. This perfect life that we follow the teachings of to give us a template, a pattern, a guideline for how we can best access that divinity within us and live from it, the presence of the Christ within us. And Mr. Fillmore interpreted the lessons of the life of Jesus Christ through recognizing 12 inherent powers within us, our 12 spiritual powers, capacities, faculties. Wise man. And he related that to the life of Jesus. Charles said, the grand man, Christ, has 12 powers of fundamental ideas represented in the history of Jesus by the 12 apostles. So each of us has 12 facilities. So you know that when Jesus began his ministry, he gathered to him a group of 12. And each of those apostles in Mr. Fillmore's understanding relates to a part of our divine nature. This template, this pattern of who we are. Now, somebody has said to me regularly, really, only 12 powers? Only 12? No, they are infinite and unlimited, but they are sourced from these 12, which is sourced from God, from love. So it all begins in the same place, but Charles understood it to flow out in a logical and understandable, and here's the important part, folks, a repeatable process. It wasn't just Jesus who was the perfect example. And he was the example, not the exception. But this pattern is here for us to access within and follow in our own lives. So for today, we're going to look at one of our spiritual powers, which relates to our proverb and the Lunar New Year, this power of strength inherent with us. Now, I'm not talking about physical strength. It's not about how much you can bench press in the gym, but it's about this inner capacity to stand strong in the gale and not be blown over. The reason this plant, the a'ali'i, is prized is because it's a native plant. And if you're a gardener, you know about non-native plants versus native. It's a strong native plant that withstands the variety of conditions that our climate here in Hawaii can deliver up to growing things. It grows deep roots. It's a hardwood. There are no pests that can kill this thing. Hardly anything wants to eat it, but it blooms the most exquisite flowers in a whole variety of colors. So it's prized for those who enjoy lei making and wearing. It makes a beautiful statement in a garden, and it adds to the beauty of our lives here in this island. And it will not be blown down by the strong winds. So we take this idea from this proverb today and from the imagery of the horse to acquire our own strength, to indeed strengthen our spiritual capacity to stand strong in the winds and the gale forces that move in our life. So strength, as Mr. Fillmore understood this spiritual power, is about the ability to be steadfast, to stand strong, to withstand whatever comes our way. The ability to persevere, to keep moving on, to follow on that path forward for the green grass and not worry about what's behind. To endure through what life gives us, because inherent in us is this strength, this capacity to touch the presence of God within us and move and live in expression of that God presence. That's the power of strength that each of us holds. It's our nature. You don't have to wonder where you would go find this strength. You look inside, spending time in how would we find the stuff inside in ourselves? We might use, prayer and meditation, do you think, people? Yes. We spend time with our own divine presence to strengthen this power within us, to live from the quiet confidence of God's strength, lifting us even in the gales. Charles said that spiritual strength is the energy of God moving in us. Now, my father was the maintenance director of a power facility in Washington State where I grew up. He managed 3 different hydroelectric plants. And when I was 6 years old, they were expanding the powerhouse in one of these dams. And I got to stand on the bedrock of the Columbia River, where normally there would have been 150 feet of water rushing over my head, but they were under construction, so they'd used structures, they call them cofferdams, to push the water out of the way of the bed of the river where they wanted to do the construction. And here I was, standing with my dad on bedrock at the bottom of the river, imagining that in months, even in fact years, water would be streaming over this spot where I'm standing. Because I got to go, who wants to go with their dad on Saturday to go to work? Yeah, I grew up doing that. Daddy, can I tag along with you to go do what my father did? And so I would also get to go into areas of the dam itself, where other people didn't get to travel. And I can remember standing on the floor of the powerhouse which was polished terrazzo and stretching down yards. It looked like miles when I was 6 years old. 10 turbines churning the water of the Columbia River, making electricity for our county. And when you stand on the floor of the power plant in a hydroelectric dam, you feel that power being generated. You feel the energy of the water moving all around this concrete and stone and cement structure, and you feel the spin of the turbines. The whole place has this vibration that is constantly moving. And it makes this huge hum while those turbines are spinning. And I loved to stand and absorb that vibration into my body. There was just something magical about it. I didn't understand about making electricity. I knew some of the words my dad used, but I could feel the vibration. So in my life now, when I have those rocky moments and the gale is blowing and I momentarily forget who I am, that I am a child of the Most High, I am a magnificent expression of God itself, when I momentarily lose touch with that, my reconnection is to stand in my mind on the floor of that power plant and feel that energy moving up through my body until I am alive with the hum of the turbines. Can you feel that? Can you feel that as though it were the energy of God humming in you? Yeah. When we momentarily forget, we need an image to reconnect us. We need the language of prayer and the vibration of that energy to know that that source is present, as close as breath. But I remember standing on the floor of the power plant in Chelan County, Washington State, to reconnect to the presence of God. Well, I was researching for something interesting to share with you to illuminate this proverb about strength in the force of the gale and also about the year of the horse. I thought, would I get lucky enough to tell one story to cover both? Hallelujah, it came up. Google is a wonderful resource. You all know that. I found this story of this family in Idaho. The parents are Susan and Sherman Hadley, and they had 2 sons, Jordan, the older, and Garrett, the younger. They were a 3-generation family of experienced and gifted horse trainers and well recognized. Sherman, the father, trained a number of regionally winning horses, and he had a huge reputation in that part of the country. And so they had several dozen horses that were boarded and that they trained. And Sherman was training his oldest son, Jordan, already to be a horse trainer. It was dark in winter, and Dad, Sherman, and the younger son, Garrett, went to the barn to do a simple chore. And they heard screams. The mother and Jordan heard the screams of their son and father, and they came running to find Garrett laying on the ground unconscious. He'd been pushed out of the way by his father in an effort to save him. And Dad, all they saw were his boots, because the accident that took place is 3 massive hay bales rolled out of their storage place and landed on the dad, on Sherman. Now, I'm not talking, hay bales like this that you can buck up onto the truck. Those massive rolls, they weigh 800 to 850 pounds of hay, and this was what rested on Sherman. Somehow, through finding the spiritual strength within them, this mother, the 2 sons, and a friend who was also there managed to push that roll off of Sherman enough so that they could extricate him and get him help and prevent him from being suffocated. He was severely injured. 5 years later, he has managed to recover some small amount of body movement. He can make a thumbs up, and he has limited speech, but his spirit is still there. He shines with that spiritual strength, and he still directs in limited ways the family business. But in the immediate aftermath of this tragedy, what's this family going to do? They have horses that need care, and they their forward movement down the path of the green grass now rests on the shoulders of 17-year-old Jordan. He had just purchased his first horse to train independently. And he carried on with the family business, and he worked with his horse every day. He had a relationship with the strength, the courage, and the wisdom that was resident in this animal, and I suspect resident in him as well. As he nurtured this horse across 2 years, he remembered the lessons his father had taught him, and he was learning lessons every day to see his father present with a smile, but stuck in a wheelchair, and yet still somehow managing to communicate and to relate love to his family. So there came at the time, after 2 years of training, when Jordan entered his horse in a local regional sweepstakes race. Sweet name that horse had, Dreaming of Kisses. That's a horse name, right? He entered his horse, and she was rated at odds 35-1. Not good in a horse race. But that family stood at the rail, and Jordan knew that he had felt the spirit of this horse and that there was strength in this animal. And if she could let loose on this day and tap into that energy, she might just show him a thing or two. And she did. That horse won coming behind, and that family cheered, including Spencer in his wheelchair, thumbs up for his son and his horse that day. They both, that whole family, lives in this presence of knowing how to draw on their spiritual strength to stand tall in the storms that rage in their lives. What a gift to know that your life is secure from the storm, no matter the circumstance that moves around you. Is that a good lesson in your life? Anybody say yes to that? Is that a good lesson in our community right now? That we have what we need to follow that green grass path forward, because we are filled with the power and the energy. The of God is alive in us in every moment. So how are we going to become an a'ali'i? Well, you know I have steps and invitations. The first is to remember this truth, to remember who we are, magnificent creations of God. We have come here for a holy purpose, and every moment in our life is divine order unfolding. So we only, ever, and always are in the right place at the right time, right now. Martha Smock was a longtime participant and member of the Silent Unity team back at Unity Village in Lee's Summit, Missouri, and she's a beloved Unity author, certainly one of our favorites around this church. And Martha wrote, when we remember where it is that our strength lies, when we remember that God's Spirit is within us, a wellspring of strength, we are never depleted, never discouraged, never unable to do anything that is before us to do. We remember who we are and the strength that supports our journey forward. And then next, we focus. We allow ourselves to recognize the place we're in, because that equips us to turn to rely on the self and the divine being and energy that we are. When we focus on the truth that this strength lies within us and coming with this energy of God moving in us, that means everything is available to us that we could need. All the inspiration and guidance, all the strength and courage, all the wisdom to move forward, to stand tall in the face of the storm, and to find that path where the green grass is growing. When we focus, we are drawing all of these spiritual powers into existence in our experience, into our expression of the energy of God in our life. This is a current favorite quote of mine. I found it on the internet. Imagine, my favorite source. Being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. Imagine that against the backdrop of the Hadley family, that how they knew they were loved by one another, and that love supported them. And knowing that they felt this deep love, connected as a family, it gave them the courage to stand tall in the storm and to simply focus their energy in a forward direction until the gale had passed. And then most importantly of all, we need to act. We need to take that strength that is within us and all the rest of our divine powers and use them outwardly in our life to create the energy of moving forward, to create inspiration for people around us, to create a life story of magnificence. Let the winds blow, because we'll be standing tall no matter what. I invite you to find that place of centered strength within you in this moment and come with me into the recognition that all that you need is within you. To hold in your own heart this space of the strength represented in the horse, in the determination to endure represented in the beautiful a'ali'i plant. To know that the strength of that perfection we call the Christ is here and now present in your very being. Breathe into that strength with me as we come to God in the silence.